Hey, what's up, Closer fam? It's me, Plus Ultraman, and today we are back again once again with a surprisingly popular What If. What if Stain trained Deku? As always, a quick recap. Because of Deku's more aggressive training with Stain, he ended up being a lot more aggressive in the UA entrance exams, and passed out his quirk. When coming to give Deku the good news about getting into UA, All Might actually passed down One for All. And because of having more confidence, Deku and Uraraka came up with a very good strategy to beat Bakugo and Ida. And Stain participated in the USJ attack, helping out the hero. He was even accepted as All Might's new sidekick. And at the very end of the part, he actually suggested a new way of Deku to use his new power. We return to this timeline, now. As in the original timeline, the UA Sports Festival gets announced, and I think everybody would be just excited. Though I think a big change here comes when Uraraka reveals the reason she wants to be a hero. With All Might and Stain being in earshot, the fanatic hero, being surprised by how heroic her reasoning was, bursts out into the group and praises her as All Might gets Deku to come and eat with them. All Might, Deku, and Stain have relatively the same conversation that All Might and Deku do in the original timeline, though Stain is here, and he's kind of fanboying out about Deku getting to say All Might's catchphrase. He also decides that he would join the security detail with Mount Lady and the others, and asks Deku if he thought any more about the suggestion that he made, and Deku admits that he has, but he hadn't really had time to really try it out. So it's decided that they spend the next 2 weeks before the sports festival developing this new technique. And since Deku has 2 whole weeks to practice full cow, I think that he would develop it to a much more effective state than what he did in the original timeline. There, he practiced with it for maybe 4 or 5 days before he ended up fighting against Stain. But here he has 2 weeks, so I'm going to say that he develops a very good handle on how to control the technique. Though I think the way he moves would be much more based off how Stain moves instead of how Bakugo moves. I even think he'd realistically be able to handle 7% of One for All this time, from the hardcore training that he did with Stain. And speaking of which, here are Deku's stats from that Stain training. We can then fast forward to the moment where Todoroki declares war on Deku. I think Deku would happily take on the challenge, and as such, Bakugo declares war on both of them. All 3 fired up to take on strong opponents. Remember, this is a much more confident and aggressive Deku. I think that Bakugo even calls out Deku as he's the one that he wants to beat the most after claiming that he'd be the one to win. Nothing has happened that would change the events in the actual sports festival, so we will still have the obstacle race, cavalry battle, and the finals. So, when the obstacle race starts and Todoroki freezes everyone in place, Deku is one of the people who avoids it by bursting into the technique that he's been developing, and the force actually pushes a few people away from him, allowing him to jump from the walls until he's out, right behind Bakugo. Something cool that happens here is that when Bakugo passes over one of the giant robots and Deku sees it start to fall, he wants to really show how far he'd come, and he wants to show how heroic he can be. So he actually unleashes a 5% smash on one of the robots like he did in the original entrance exams, which actually sets him a bit behind Todoroki and Bakugo, but it actually also helps people behind him. Besides, Todoroki and Bakugo would probably stop to gawk at what he'd just done. That being said, I think that everyone else would do about the same that they did in the original race. Even though Deku is far behind Bakugo and Todoroki, he is naturally fast in this timeline, and with full cow active, he's probably very close to the speed of Stain, if not already there. He quickly reaches Bakugo and Todoroki as the two make it to the giant chasm, and like Bakugo, is able to clear it in a few jumps, and actually overtake the two, but ends up messing up and being hit by one of the mines in the minefield. After this, Bakugo and Todoroki are able to pass him again, while he recovers and the young hero begins to rack his brain for a new strategy. He then comes up with one, knowing it would be pretty dangerous, but finding no other real options. The only other one he can think of would probably take a little bit too much time. He holds his fingers in a flicking position and gets very low to the ground before charging up a very strong flick charged with his One for All. Once he releases it, a row of mines go off that end up stunning people who began to pass him. But more importantly, this clears a path that he wastes no time zooming down. And once he makes it onto the heels of Bakugo and Todoroki while they scuffle for first place, he wisely uses them as a jumping point and leaps past them, causing them to both stop fighting as they did in the original timeline and go full throttle. Again, this Deku is insanely fast from his Stain training, and now he has full cow on top of that, so I'm going to say that he still comes in first. And this time, he does get to show off his quirk, while Bakugo has been training extremely hard after his loss to Deku, so I'm going to say that he makes it in second, and Todoroki is third. And we should reliably be able to leave everyone else in their same placing as Deku and Bakugo are the only ones who should have changed from this timeline. Now, when the cavalry battle is announced, I don't think Deku gets as flustered as he did in the original timeline. Granted, he does still get very nervous realizing that he's going to be the main target of everyone in the game, but I think once Uraraka asks to team up with him, he snapped out of it and get a very good plan. One that when Mei asks to join him, he's actually confident enough to decline her offer, explaining that while evasion would be important, defense was doubly so, and there were 2 people in their class that worked great for that. He then runs out to recruit them, hoping against hope that they hadn't been asked yet. When the battle starts, we see some different teams with different members on them. Team Mineta only has Mineta, or Mineta is on one of the Class B squads that we don't see much of. Asui and Mei are in the same boat as him. And interestingly enough, there is no Team Midoriya. Instead, we have Team Uraraka, which consists of Shoji, Tokoyami, and Deku as horses, with Ochako as the rider. Deku explains that his plan is to have Shoji be the front horse and wrap Uraraka in his arms, while Tokoyami protects them from a 360-degree angle with Dark Shadow. And Ochako could use her quirk to make them weightless, and Deku could use his to help them move around fast, and use strong attacks in the air to move in the air. The focus of this team is to completely protect their points from attack, and be able to move quickly. Every other team should remain about the same, and I think Deku's strategy goes off that much of a hitch. There's no real way to force Shoji's arms to open up without directly attacking him. And even then, it would need to be something like Kaminari shocks, which would be neutralized by Dark Shadow. Now, I could see Bakugo attacking and doing some real damage to Shoji, but if that were to happen, Dark Shadow could be used to deflect the attack, or Deku could flick them away. Besides, I think Team Monomo would still likely eat up a lot of Team Bakugo's time. The only other option I see is for Todoroki to freeze them in place, but even then, they'd have to waste a lot of time getting Shoji's arms to open up, and they'd be too close for Deku and Dark Shadow not to be attacking them. Not to mention, Team Ochako will be moving all around the field this entire game. So this makes the results Team Ochako in first place, Team Bakugo in second, Team Todoroki in third, and Team Shinso in fourth. Now because of how Deku's been using his quirk, I'd say that Todoroki still poses his questions towards him. I'd also say that Team Shinso, other than Shinso, still drop out, and the matchups are the exact same, except Shoji is to go against Ida. I think Ojiro would still tell Deku about Shinso, which would actually make something kinda sad happen next. When Deku and Shinso face off, Deku wastes no time and activates his Bloodlust Binding technique, which actually stuns Shinso completely. Deku moves forward like Stain and easily pushes the other boy out of the ring, not even allowing him to show off his quirk. Now, let's be nice to him and say that while trembling from Deku's technique, he's able to at least ridicule Deku for having a heroic quirk compared to his, and maybe some of the other pros would still find him useful if he describes it. Todoroki's match with Zero would probably be even quicker in this timeline, as Endeavor would have really laid into Todoroki after coming in third twice, so he'd be even angrier and might completely freeze Zero, knocking him out. Every match other than Ida's goes the exact same. When he and Shoji face off, Shoji comes up with a very good strategy. He stretches two of his tentacles out onto the ground to make himself more stable, so that Ida can't just push him out. It actually makes it a bit more of an even match, as Ida has to race around and try and kick Shoji, while Shoji tries to block each kick and grapple with Ida. A big difference in this timeline is Ida has not revealed the reciprocal burst in the cavalry battle. There was no reason to because they couldn't break through Shoji's arms. So getting desperate, he decides to unveil it now, and zooms towards Shoji, actually knocking him almost out of the ring. But something happens that catches them both off guard. Shoji instinctively wraps his arms around Ida, causing them both to fall out, which makes the match a tie. Now, here's where it gets a bit fanficky, but stay with me. Instead of allowing them to have a rematch, which unlike Hiroshima's didn't end from both participants passing out, but simply giving it their all, it's decided that they would both be eliminated, and that a rematch would probably result in similar finishes. So Deku and Todoroki's match would be postponed until a new decision was made. When Uraraka loses to Bakugo, Deku actually gets mad at him for accusing him of making up her strategy, saying she did it all by herself and that everyone in their class was a force to be reckoned with, and that he should remember that before walking off. Kirishima vs Tetsu Tetsu goes the same as well, as does Bakugo vs Kirishima. They all go the same, and with that, it's decided that the finals will be decided by a 5-man battle royale, with Deku, Todoroki, Shiozaki, Tokoyami, and Bakugo. Now I think Shiozaki might actually bow out of the matches, seeing as how two of her opponents have quirks that can actually put her at a very big disadvantage since they have fire or ice. And Tokoyami might likely feel kind of pressured to drop out as well, as he too be at a big disadvantage. So it's actually decided that the two of them would face off, and we'd be left with a 3-man battle, while the winner of Shiozaki and Tokoyami's match would actually face the winner of the 3-man battle. Endeavor still approaches Deku about giving Todoroki a real challenge, and I think this would really fire the more aggressive version of him up, as he goes into the battle royale wanting to save Todoroki even more. Though, with that goal in mind, he also has to balance that with fighting Kacha on equal terms, and he then gets an idea and walks into the room that Bakugo was preparing in, quieting his yelling with a serious declaration of "we need to talk." Now, I think Tokoyami would beat Shiozaki pretty easily. She could try and bind him up, but Dark Shadow could free him and still attack from a distance. So he's going to be facing the winner of the 3-man match. When Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo walk out of the entrance and get into the ring, Todoroki, once the match begins, sees Deku and Bakugo standing pretty close together with their arms crossed while giving him bored looks, and both claim that they refuse to fight him at half his strength. Todoroki, shocked at this, would look to Midnight, who claims that if they didn't start the fight in the next 10 seconds, both Deku and Bakugo would be disqualified. Now hearing that, Bakugo roars out about how stupid Deku's plan was and blasts himself straight at Todoroki, who erects an ice wall to stop him. Being shocked when the explosive bond punches right through it and grabs him by his collar, yelling that if he didn't want to go all out, Bakugo would just kill him and take on Deku one-on-one. Shoto tries to retaliate and frees Bakugo's arms, but doesn't get much of a chance as Deku zooms behind them both and kicks Todoroki in the back, sending him and Bakugo sprawling. He then yells out in a way that sends shivers down even Stain's spine as he watches through the screen outside the stadium. Deku begins to roar at Todoroki, accidentally using a bit of Bloodlust Binding on him. He berates him for holding back when everyone here had gone all out. He says that if he wants to do that, then he can get the hell out of the ring, because he was nowhere near strong enough to take both of them on at half his strength. He then roars that he's being stupid because his quirk is his. I think Todoroki has a similar awakening moment and activates his flames, ignoring the tears of his father, and the real fight begins. Todoroki begins using his right side to create a huge wall of ice to block Bakugo, while his left fires off a huge stream of flame at Deku. Bakugo continues to drill through the ice while Deku dances around the flames. And once the three get close enough, Todoroki tries to make distance again while Baku and Deku get into a slug face. I think the fight would go like this for the most part, though I think at some point we would come to an impasse. See, I'm not exactly sure who should win this fight. I feel like Deku definitely would not, because he does not have the long-range fighting potential that Bakugo and Todoroki have. At the same time, Todoroki is using his flames in this fight, so he would not be as sluggish as he was in Bakugo's fight with him. So that being said, I think the best way to end this fight is for all three to clash at once, with Deku firing off a full power smash at the both of them, while Bakugo fires into the center of them with his Howler's impact. And Todoroki tries to blast them both with a huge gust of flame. And this creates an even bigger shockwave that might even destroy some of the stadium. And when the dust settles, I think that Deku and Bakugo will be outside the ring, knocked completely out. This would lead to Bakugo and Deku being declared the losers, while Todoroki moves on to the final round. Now when Todoroki and Tokoyami face off, I'm going to say that Tokoyami actually comes out on top. Remember, Todoroki didn't want to use his flames against Bakugo. I think he'd be in a similar position with Tokoyami. He just doesn't really have the will to fight right now. And as such, I think Tokoyami capitalizes by blocking his ice attacks until Todoroki gets too sluggish, and then has Dark Shadow push him out of the ring, naming him the winner of the game. This makes the rankings Tokoyami in first place, Todoroki in second, and Bakugo and Deku in a shared third place. I'm sorry if you don't like that outcome, but it's just the best thing I could think of. Let's fast forward to when everyone is picking their new names for the internships. I think we'd have a few differences. Uraraka now has to choose between an offer from Gunhead and All Might's new sidekick Stain, while both Bakugo and Todoroki have received an offer from Endeavor's agency. And Ida has received one from his older brother. But that plus Ultra fans will be leaving this timeline off for now. The more focused and aggressive Deku has really made his mark in this timeline, and has shaken up the results of the sports festival by a huge amount. So will everyone accept their new offers? Find out next time, and as always, go beyond plus Ultra. We'll see you guys next time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.